If you're seriously thinking about moving from Hamilton or the GTA to a smaller town like Smithville, this video is the one you need to watch before you do anything else. Because I've been helping families make this exact move for over 8 years. And I see the same mistakes come up time and time again. Mistakes that cost people time, money, and honestly, a lot of unnecessary stress. The good news is that every single one of them is completely avoidable. And that is exactly what we're going to walk through today. I'm David Hildebrand, your local Smithville and West Lincoln real estate agent. And I actually moved here with my own family. So I'm not just selling you on this place, I live it every single day. Stick with me for the next 10 minutes and you will leave this video with a clear picture of what to watch out for and what to do instead. Before we get into the list, I want to say something very quickly. Every single week, I hear from family just like yours, people who are doing exactly what you're doing right now, which is researching what a move to Smithville would actually look like for their family. If that's you, I want to make this easy. I put together a free 2026 Smithville relocation guide that covers neighborhoods, schools, commute times, cost of living comparisons, and what to expect from the market. It's completely free, and the link to grab it is in the description below. And if you're at the point where you want to have a real conversation about what this move could look like, you can reach me directly through the link in the description. No pressure, just a straightforward conversation about your situation. All right, let's get into it. Mistake number 1, underestimating the commute and not having a real plan for it. This is one that catches people off guard the most, and I understand why. You go to Google Maps on a Sunday morning and it says 30 minutes to Hamilton. So you think, well, that's totally manageable. But here's the reality. During Monday morning rush hour, that same drive can be 40 to 45 minutes. And if you're commuting all the way to Toronto or Mississauga, you're looking at 60 to 80 to 90 to 120 minutes depending on the day. Now, I'm not saying that that's a deal breaker. For a lot of families I work with, absolutely it is not. But the mistake of not thinking it through properly before you commit is where the issue lies. So the question you need to answer honestly is how many days a week will you actually be making that drive? A lot of my buyers are hybrid workers, 2 or 3 days in the office, and that completely changes the math. But if you're in the car 5 days a week, that's something you need to factor into your lifestyle, not just your fuel budget. The families who do this move successfully, they plan the commute before they buy, not after. Mistake number 2 is not understanding septic versus sewer and what that actually means. In the city, most people have never had to think about where their wastewater goes. It goes into the municipal system and it's somebody else's problem. Now, in a small town, especially in a rural setting or an acreage property, that is not always how it works. In Smithville's urban core, you're on municipal water and sewer. You don't need to worry about it. It's straightforward. But if you're looking to properties outside of town, hobby farms, larger lots, country homes, you may be looking at a cistern or a well as your water supply and a septic system for your waste. A septic system is not something to be afraid of. Millions of Ontarians have them and they work fine, but they do require maintenance. They have a lifespan, typically 30 to 40 years, depending on the system. And if you buy a property with an aging septic that you did not budget for a potential replacement, that can be a $40,000 to $50,000 surprise that nobody wants. The fix here is simple. Always have the septic inspected before you remove conditions. Ask your agent, that's me, about the age of the system and when it was last serviced. This is standard practice for rural properties, and I walk every buyer through it. The same goes for cistern and well water. In most cases, it's perfectly safe, and lots of people here actually prefer it. But again, the water needs to be tested, and you need to know that it's safe before you get into it. Do not let it be a surprise when you purchase and you're a month into living there. Mistake number 3 is assuming that internet and connectivity will be the same as it is in the city. Now, this one has become a lot more relevant since remote work became the normal, and it is something I see buyers overlook more than they should. If you're buying in Smithville's urban core, you're generally in good shape. Bell has fiber to the home and newer developments. Roger and Cogeco offer cable internet throughout most of the town, and speeds can get up to 1.5 gigabytes per second in some areas. Totally fine for working from home. But the further out you go into rural areas of West Lincoln, the more this changes. Now, if you're streaming Netflix, this is no problem. For video calls and day in remote work environments, that's something you need to test and verify before you buy a home. Now, my advice is if you are a remote worker, treat internet connectivity like a utility. Before you fall in love with that beautiful 5-acre property, figure out what provider services that address, what the realistic speeds are, and whether there is a backup option available. It will save you a major headache. Mistake number 4 is shopping for a home before choosing the part of town that's right for you. Smithville is not a big town, but it has more variety than people realize when they first start looking. And the mistake I see people jumping into is going straight to browsing listings before they understand the layout of the community. Now, the west side of town is where most of the newer development is happening. You're talking about newer homes, newer subdivisions, and in many cases, newer infrastructure such as schools and commercial setting. That part of town is growing very fast. Now, the southeast side is much more established and has older homes, often with larger lots and more mature trees. So you're more into that settled in feeling as opposed to newer development. It's a totally different vibe. Some buyers love it and others want to get brand new. So you need to know where you want to be before you start booking showings. And then there is the rural side of things, the concession roads, the hobby farms, the properties, the acreage, lots out in West Lincoln Township. That's completely different lifestyle from living in Smithville. Both are great, but they are not the same thing. The families who struggle with this move are usually the ones who fell in love with a listing without understanding where it sits in the community. Before you book a single showing, let me take you on a tour, even virtually, of the different parts of town. That 15-minute conversation will save you months of confusion. Mistake number 5, misjudging the true cost of living in both directions. Now, here's a mistake that goes both ways. I want to be honest with you about both sides of it. On the one side, people moving here expect everything to be dramatically cheaper, including groceries, gas, everyday costs, and then they're surprised when they are not radically different from what they pay for in the city. Your grocery options in Smithville are Foodland. That's it. If you want no-frill pricing, you are driving to Beamsville. Gas prices are roughly in line with where the Niagara region sits, potentially slightly lower than the GTA, but not dramatically. Now, where the real savings show up is in your housing costs. A detached home in Smithville is going to be significantly more affordable than the equivalent in Hamilton or the GTA. Your property taxes will also be lower, and you're getting more space for your money. Those are real lasting savings that compound every single year you own here. The mistake is not understanding where the savings are versus where they are not. That is the conversation I have with every family before they decide to make their move. All right, mistake number 6, waiting too long because of market uncertainty. This one is hard to talk about because I never want to pressure anyone into making a move before they're ready. But I would be doing a disservice if I did not say this clearly. The families I hear from most, the ones with the most regret, are not the ones who bought and later wish they had waited. They are the ones who waited and watched as prices moved beyond what they were comfortable with. Smithville is not a speculative market. It's a community in genuine growth mode. West Lincoln is projected to be one of the fastest growing rural communities in the Niagara region over the next decade. And that projection is being backed by actual infrastructure investment. New water infrastructure projects, new home construction on the west side of town, that kind of growth does not reverse, it compounds. And in the window where you can get into this market before pricing fully catches up to what it deserves to be, that window is not infinite. Now, I'm not saying you need to buy tomorrow. I am saying if this move makes sense for your family's lifestyle and your financial picture, delaying it just a bit longer does have a cost. Make sure you understand that cost before you decide to wait. Mistake number 7 is trying to do this without someone who actually knows the area. I saved this one for last because it ties everything together. Small town real estate is genuinely different from city real estate. The inventory is much smaller, properties are more varied, you're comparing municipal lots to rural acreage in the same search. Inspection requirements are quite different, and the closing process around cisterns, wells, and septics adds layers that a city-based agent may not even know about. I have seen buyers come into this market with a Hamilton or Toronto agent who's a perfectly capable agent in their own market, who simply did not know to ask about a shared laneway or the age of a septic system or what a specific concession road looks like in the spring when the frost comes out of the ground. Those are not things that show up in a listing. They are things you only know from being here. Now, I moved my family here. I am raising my kids here. I know which streets in Smithville back onto commercial spaces. I know which subdivisions have the best school walk routes. I know which rural properties have a history of flooding or sit in a floodplain, and which ones do not. Now, that kind of knowledge is something you cannot pull from a database. It comes from living it. You should not hire a plumber who never worked with well systems to replace your well pump. Apply the same logic to the biggest financial decision your family will ever make. Work with someone who knows the market from the inside. All right, let's do a quick recap. The 7 mistakes to avoid when moving to a small town. Number 1 is underestimating the commute, and you will regret it. Plan it in real conditions, not Sunday morning. Number 2, septic and cistern and well water are not scary, but they need to be inspected and understood before you close. Number 3, rural internet is not city internet. Verify the address before you fall in love with a property. Number 4 is to know the community layout before you shop for listings. West Side, East Side, and rural West Lincoln are 3 different lifestyles. Number 5 is the housing is where the real savings are. Groceries and gas are not dramatically cheaper, but your mortgage and your property taxes will be. Number 6, waiting has a cost. This market is growing, and that growth is backed by real infrastructure. Finally, number 7, work with someone who lives here. Small town real estate has nuances that only show up when you know the area from the inside. If you're ready to take the next step, I have 2 things for you in the description below. Number 1 is the free 2026 Smithville Relocation Guide, which covers everything from neighborhoods, schools, cost of living, commute breakdowns, everything. And grab it, it's completely free. Second is if you want to have a direct conversation with me, there's a link in the description to book a call, and we can do that at any point. No pressure, no pitch, just a conversation about whether Smithville is right for you and your family. Now, if you want to keep learning about what it's actually like to live here, I want to point you to one more video. It's a full map tour of Smithville where I walk you through every part of town so you know exactly where things are and what each area feels like before you ever book a showing. That video is right here. See you there.